Welcome into another episode of Odd Man Rush. Hope you're all having a great week wherever you may be listening to us. My name is Will Highland. I'm joined with Kyle Diezel here on the first week of December in 2023. Crazy to think we're already 2 months into the hockey season, but we have a ton to get to tonight in a short amount of time. Reason I say it's a short amount of time is because we got Survivor at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I am, yes, still one of those people. But let's just hope that Kyle doesn't vote me off the island for squeezing him into a short show. He's over there enjoying mac and cheese, which I can certainly say won't be indulged on the islands of Fiji. But Kyle, pleasantries aside, what's up? Oh, we got a mid-chew.
Not much, just getting back from a nice long work day. It's been nice. First snowfall here in Boston today, that I can think of. But it's been nice. Surprisingly, though, we're gonna have 60-degree weather this weekend, so I
Yeah,
don't get the weather these days.
no, nobody does. And yeah, it snowed Monday up here um in the Pine Tree State, and we've had snow uh, in December most years, but usually to get measurable snow the first week of December is still somewhat rare. Um, but I'm not a weatherman. I just try and be a hockey analyst for the folks at home. But Kyle, since we last talked about hockey, that is on the air, you and I have actually attended a game together. We
Correct.
have we have had multiple changes in the world order as it pertains to hockey.
Hmm.
And we have had some highs and lows for each of our respective teams that we cheer for, the Devils and the Bruins. But I think one of the first points that you brought up to me when we were planning this show is last night Vancouver and New Jersey played, and that was the first time, correct me if I'm wrong, that the Hughes brothers were on the ice together.
Correct.
And you brought up to me that you think it's a, unique moment in the sport. Tell me a little bit more about, why you as a Devil fan found it um, so interesting beyond just those two being on your team.
I mean, I think it's just huge in general, just for hockey itself, but also I'm a big, huge fan, all three of them. It's big for especially American hockey. This is the three young studs coming up to basically take the next ranks of the USA team or hockey in general for the states and put a name to the states that we're here to try to compete as an overall team, even as individuals with the Devils and the Canucks. But when it comes international time, they're going to represent Team USA, no question. And then you could potentially have all three of them on the same line for Team USA, which is huge. And I think the NHL right now is doing a great job at slowly promoting that this is the future of USA hockey right here. These are the three studs that people are going to look up to, young kids. Like Canada's had their time. They've had like Crosby come up, and they still have young talents with Bedard. And I think this rivalry is going to be huge again, once again, with these young players coming into effect. I'm excited to see if, like I talked about last night, texting you, if the Canucks and the Devils play each other in the Stanley Cup Finals, you have all three Hughes brothers on the ice. That's pretty incredible, I'd say.
I agree. I'd take it a step further, in a positive way, and say that there's a likelihood that somewhere in the future in an international tournament you have a five-man power play made up of Quinn as the only defenseman, and then is Luke as well, right?
Correct.
All right, so you have Luke and Quinn as the defensemen, both puck movers, and then you have Brady Tkachuk, Matt Tkachuk, and Jack Hughes. You could have Hughes in the middle, the Tkachuk's on the wing, and then have the other Hughes playing D in a international game together. That is not outside the realm of possibility, and that would make people go nuts. That would especially make our friends north of the border go nuts, I believe. And also, you brought up those two. I agree, but they're or you brought up those three, I should say. Um, I would also point out that you would also be able to, I'm using the word also a lot, you would be able to combine those guys with an already existing group that has like Jack Eichel, Austin Matthews, and Johnny Gaudreau, and John Carlson, and Charlie McAvoy, and Adam Fox, and a bunch of other American players that are in goal. There's four. I think, as we talked about last time, at that point of our time of our last show, the three leading Vezina candidates, so to speak, were all Americans. It was Swayman, Ottinger, and now, of course, I'm blanking on the third, but
Demko?
thank you, Thatcher Demko. So yeah, you had all three of those guys. But I did put in our show notes, and you probably saw it, and I don't know if the listeners heard about this too. I read it on Daily Faceoff this morning, that the arena in Italy, though, for the 2026 Olympics hasn't even been built yet. I'm not an architect, Kyle. I don't know if you are either on the side when you're not molding young minds. But I would think that in late 2023, if you were having a Winter Olympics in early 2026, that's practically 2 years away at this point, and you haven't built the arena yet, that's a little scary for if you haven't built your hockey arena. And I don't know what the Italians build. I know their ancestors built, the Roman city and whatnot, and canals.
They
So I
got
don't
the
see why
Coliseum.
in the Coliseum. Yeah, I can't see how they couldn't build a arena for hockey in 2 years, but let's hope they can.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll do fine. I think eventually they'll get it done. They might not be. I'm not sure why they're not working on at least getting the foundation set, unless they're still worried about planning. But I'm not too worried about it. I think they'll get it done. If not, there's plenty of other places they can go play some nice hockey. Maybe they can go across the border a little ways and play some hockey where it's
Yeah.
a little bit more appreciated, I would say, than
Yeah,
it is over in
Germany's got to have arenas. Just let them play over in Germany or Switzerland or somewhere nearby. The Swiss definitely have arenas, big enough for Olympic ice. The
You can go
reason
play
I'm
at
worried. Oh, go ahead.
you can play at Jaromir Jagr Stadium where he's on that team.
Oh, in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, maybe we'll see him play internationally. That'd be pretty interesting if he's still playing for the
Yeah,
international
geez.
team
I
at the age of
mean,
what,
he's old
60
enough to
something?
be. He's got to be 50 something at this point. He's got to be 50.
Gosh.
Has to be 50 at this point.
Well, he's getting his jersey retired this year as a Penguin, so
Yeah,
took him
which is
long
weird
enough.
because he's played for like everybody. He played for the Bruins. He played. Did he play for the Devils?
Played for the Devils, played for the Rangers, played
Yep, played for the
for
Flames, played for the Bruins.
he played I think he's almost touched every jersey except for maybe the Knights in Seattle.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the reason I bring it up and I'm slightly worried about it is because Gary Bettman's worried about it. And Gary Bettman only sees dollar signs. So if he's worried about something, that means that it's a real thing.
He's worried about the money.
Well, yeah, but I'm a little worried about it. Speaking of being worried, I think the Leafs should be a little bit worried about their defense at the moment. Klingberg's going to have surgery. He was their big pickup from Anaheim.
Yep.
He's probably not going to come back. I think the Leafs are playing with fire a little bit. Ryan Reeves has been hurt after an incident against the Bruins, I believe, a few weeks ago. There's also some, they lose a pretty winnable game against the Bruins. I mean, I know the Bruins are good, but that's a home game for the Leafs. I thought they would have won that game. They're still hanging around. They're still going to be fine. I'm just, starting to look around and wonder. Nylander's cooled off a little bit. So I'm just wondering how this Klingberg thing's going to affect them, because everybody knows, and it's no secret, that their two bigger problems over the past couple seasons were goaltending and defense. And their goaltending is not great. And their defense, Morgan Riley, and unless he's doing well, the rest of their decor is a little suspect, in my opinion. And it doesn't look like Bertuzzi fits there either. I know he's not a defenseman, but still, there's some question marks there, despite their good record. Do you agree with me on my skepticism of the Leafs?
I'm a bit worried, but I'm not super worried yet. I mean, the season's still pretty young, and the points and everything is still pretty tight, so I'm not too worried yet. Not saying you should press the panic button right now, but I definitely be a bit worried going forward. Like you said, the goaltending is iffy. Their defense is a little bit concerning, especially at the depth position. And like I've said before about the Leafs, this is the year you either go all in, like I said last year, go all in or you're done. And this is it. They have to. I think if he's not better and they don't see improvement, they've got to go make a trade before the trade deadline. Because this is it. I get it. Matthew signed back, but Nylander's, I'm going to guarantee that he's probably not coming back next year. They don't have the cap to sign him. I don't think they have a cap
No,
to sign many of
absolutely not.
their depth, so they're going to have to rely a lot on maybe 1 or 2 year contracts or whatever rookies they have coming up in the farm system. And this is kind of it. Like I said, for Austin Matthews, he signed this long year deal. And if they don't win this year, I think he just signed his whole chance of winning a Stanley Cup Finals away.
Well, he's still going to be a free agent when he's still relatively young in a couple of years.
Correct, but he's going to be waiting longer than he should.
Right. Just like Ovechkin eventually got his after, 10
Correct.
years?
Correct, but look what's going on with Edmonton right now. Connor McDavid, signed that huge long contract. The Oilers have been great for so many years, and now this year they're having a bum year, and who knows how long that will take to get back up to where it was. I mean, this could happen to the Maple Leafs next year for all we know. They could have a terrible year, and who's to blame at this point? There's only so much excuses you can have, I would say, for a team. So that's what I have to say on that.
Right. And the Klingberg thing, in my opinion, is sort of the beginning of the excuse machine that happens with the Toronto Maple Leafs every year.
Beginning of the downfall, I would say. It's the
right. Like it's the beginning of the excuse machine, because what's going to happen is when they do inevitably lose again, and I don't think they're going to win the Stanley Cup. I don't think they have good enough goaltending. First and foremost, doesn't mean you have to have Vasilevsky or Ottinger to win a Stanley Cup, but you have to. I mean, Aiden Hill won a Stanley Cup because he was hot at the right time. I don't see that capability in somebody like Wall or the other guy whose name is escaping me because he's so irrelevant. That's just my thing. And maybe it's a little bit of Boston bias against the Maple Leafs, but I mean, we're gonna get to Bruins in a second, but I thought Toronto would run this division. And look, it's like you said, still wicked early. There's gonna be time to get
They've
there.
got till January to figure it out. That's what I'm giving the Devils right now. You got till January to figure it out.
Right. And so they've been underachieving, I think, which is crazy to say because they're in like third place or second place in the division. So I sound like I'm on fourth. Banana land. They're really that low as Florida? I'm ahead of Detroit. I know Detroit is third.
Detroit, Panthers, and the Maple Leafs.
Oh.
I think it's only like a point difference or so. Wow. It's still pretty close.
Oh, well, Toronto has games in hand. That's why I thought they would be higher. Okay. Well, still, their goal differential is only +2. That tells you everything you need to know. I thought they would run this division. So they've underachieved for all intents and purposes. But one who hasn't underachieved is the Vancouver Canucks. We've talked about Vancouver before in the offseason about how they had so many interesting pieces, right? Mm-hmm. They had Hughes. We talked about Hughes. They have Peterson and Garland and
Demko playing out of his mind.
Demko playing out of his mind, returning to form. I always thought he was going to be good, but he had a really inconsistent year last year. But you're right; he's playing out of his mind right now. I'm forgetting their other forwards, but they have a really intriguing forward group. Is it JT Miller?
Yeah, I'm more scared of their defense, especially with that trade they made with the Flames. They're loaded
to get Zadorov.
Yeah, they are loaded at the D position. It's so scary.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I completely memory hold the Zadorov trade, even though it only happened last week.
It was only for a 5th round pick too. It was a steal.
Yeah, well, he basically he
Yeah,
week
he
2
wanted
of the
out.
year he was criticizing the
Yeah.
coach and whatnot in the GM in Calgary and said he wanted to be traded. So Calgary is so afraid. Talking about Edmonton having a shit show. The Flames are petrified of their entire roster build at this moment because they realize that the Huberdeau thing is an albatross and nobody wants to play for them. Hannafin doesn't want to play for them. Uh, I don't think Blake Coleman is loving his decision to go up there. And Nazem Kadri hasn't worked. And Zadorov wanted to be dealt.
I thought Blake
Lindholm
Coleman
doesn't
was
want to
on
play for them.
the Rangers now.
Who was that?
I thought Blake Coleman was on the Rangers now.
Did he already leave?
I think he left this offseason.
So he was all okay, exactly. So I didn't even know that. I thought he
They're
was
gonna be
still.
they're gonna be probably the biggest seller team currently going into this uh trade deadline that's still months away.
No, you're thinking of Blake Wheeler, Blake
Oh,
Coleman.
it's all
Thank
the
you.
Blanks, okay? I
That
can't I can't
he can't keep up with the Blakes. No, yeah, Blake Coleman is still. He was a former Devil, actually. You
Yes,
probably
he
knew that.
was. I know, he was a speed demon.
But yeah, Blake Coleman. All those guys chose to go to Calgary in recent years because of Kachuk or Gaudreau, or now it's Huberdeau or any of those guys that they brought in, these big names, or the guys they had before, Lindholm. People want to play with Lindholm. That's just a complete dumpster fire, no pun intended, right up there. Like it
Toffoli,
is.
your guy.
What was that?
Your guy Toffoli.
Well, yeah, Tyler Toffoli. Yeah, he didn't want to be there. They traded him. I mean, nobody wants to play there, which is weird because I've been there. It's a great city, but and they love hockey up there. But maybe, I mean, maybe it's just not a great place to play. I guess I have no idea. But anyway, the Canucks get better because they trade with Calgary for Zadorov. So you're right. They have not only an intriguing forward core, but also a good defensive group. And so I see a moment where I think Elias Peterson could win the Hart if he keeps playing well. He got off to a really hot start. He's played consistent since. And
What's your not to cut you off, what's your thoughts on potentially Quinn Hughes winning both trophies potentially this year?
you mean the Hart
Yes.
and the
He's currently leading
Norris?
the league in points as overall player and as a defenseman.
Well, okay, I think Quinn's going to win the Norris. I think it
Correct.
would be foolish for him not to at this point. I think Elias Peterson would stand there and be like, "Hey guys, maybe that one of the reasons why Quinn Hughes is getting all these points is because I'm also playing with him and I'm also scoring and boatload of goals." So I would say for that to happen, they would have to have a 2022 Avalanche type season where they win the cup. Not that really factors in, but it does behind the
Yeah.
scenes. They'd have to like go on a deep playoff run, and like Cale Makar won the Norris and the Conn Smythe that year. There would just have to be, or was it the Calder? I can't remember. It would have to be sort of a team thing. They could
Yeah.
sweep the awards. I mean,
Oh,
Demko.
they simply can, except for rookie. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean they could sweep the awards because Demko could win Vezina, and their new coach, whose name is like completely outside my brain, could win.
Has a team ever done that? Would that be a first to sweep at
The
least four
Bruins
awards?
the Bruins were close last year. They had a Vezina and a Jack Adams winner, but then Pasternak came in second for the Hart.
Okay.
Um,
So the closest is at least two or three.
yeah,
So
I
far.
can't think of a team. I mean, usually it doesn't happen because if somebody is the MVP and they're a defenseman, they'll get those. But then their coach won't win Coach of the Year because while you had great players, of course you were going to be good. I think the reason why you win Coach of the Year is all about expectations.
That's true. Speaking about
Yeah,
expectations,
hit
and
me.
previous game we just went to, we actually got to go see together in person. How about them Red Wings?
Yeah, so here's my thing with the Red Wings. I can't remember if I said they were going to be last in the division or not. I think I might have.
We
back in
both agree that
October.
they were going to be pretty low.
I th- I I think I might have had them last in the division, but I think I failed to understand. And if you're watching on YouTube, you just saw me grimace. I think I'm failing. I think I failed to understand how strong they were in all three phases. And I know
Mm,
that sounds like a football analogy, but when you think about their 180-foot game, right? They play well in all zones. We were pretty close, so I had a good
yeah,
chance to see it up
we
close.
saw it firsthand.
They're pretty good at special teams.
100%.
And then like that power play they had, they were on the power play like half the game, it felt like.
I think they scored almost every power play they had.
Right. Including one that was like 5 seconds into the power play they scored. And then the third thing is I haven't been a big fan of Ville Huso, or however you pronounce his name. I probably butchered that. I should know better. I've never been a huge fan of him throughout his career. Thought he was a little overrated. He's basically come up big in the biggest games that they played this year. Like twice
Correct.
against the Bruins too, where he's kind of hung around. Like the Bruins in that game we were at the Garden, they had plenty of chances.
Oh, agreed. They had plenty of chances, but
And he
the
just
Detroit,
wasn't letting anything in.
no, he was basically saying, well, they said, what was that? His like fifth start, I believe.
Yeah, and he has a ton of what's the word I'm looking for? Like agility across the from post to
Yep.
post. He's kind of like Tim Thomas in that he'll make the routine saves look spectacular, but he'll still save them. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of clunky a little bit, but he stops the puck, and ultimately that's all that matters. And so it might look like an amazing save. It might like make it look like you really don't want to ever notice your goalie because that
Yeah.
means that he's just doing what he needs to do.
Well, he never
Uh,
let up also many opportunities for a second chance either. He
no,
made
he
sure
was
the
really good
rebounds
on the
were in
rebound.
prime spots that they could easily clear, or he can just cover the puck up. And then we
Yeah.
also saw them Detroit basically control the puck majority of that game. How much offensive time did they have?
Oh, I don't know. I could look back at the program, but I bet they had. I bet it was like
Like,
a 65% zone time.
yeah, it was unheard of. I never thought I'd ever see the Bruins team like that just be, I wouldn't say out manhandled, just
I
couldn't.
would say manhandle. I mean, those three games that they lost to Columbus, to New York Rangers, and then to Detroit were were the most uncharacteristic Jim Montgomery teams I've seen since he became the coach. They've since followed it back with some few wins in a row, including that big Toronto win I mentioned.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that was bizarre, man. And the thing is, one more thing about the Red Wings too. Um, Number one is, I guess, two things. Number one is Larkin. Larkin
Larkin's the
might
guy.
be like the saving grace for that team because
Larkin and Alex on the same line is
right. But
one of the
here's the
scariest things I've seen so far.
I know it's crazy. But here's the thing, man, is like 8 or 10 months ago, there was talk that Larkin didn't want to be there. Like, were they going to trade him at the same time they traded Bertuzzi? Like,
Mhm.
was he the guy? He ends up signing there long term. They're able to use that to bring in DeBrincat, Shane Gostisbehere, some other like solid players, um, to complement the rest of that roster.
Correct.
And now I think that's what I underestimated. And we haven't even gotten to the second thing I was going to say with them is that since we talked and since we were even at the game, they've gotten Patrick Kane, who may not be the same guy he was, of course, but is still a good, solid top six player in this league who might thrive not having to be the guy all the time because they've
You
got
know,
the brinket.
going off that, you bring in a veteran who has won Stanley Cups to a team that hasn't had much success, and to bring it to like Alex, to bring it to Larkin, all those young players on that team is huge. Like, even if they're able to make it and go to past the first or second round, that is crazy. And that's what Patrick Kane's going to do. He doesn't have to be the number one guy anymore,
Right.
which is what he did over in New York. But they still considered him to be a top contributor. But just having his presence there on the ice, he can now change that role of being, I don't have to score the puck as much as I can be the facilitator and
Yeah,
open the
and it's
playbook up.
dangerous.
For Alex and for Larkin or whoever else, like that's a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, we watched that Alex DeBrincat breakaway goal on Swayman. The
No
dude does whatever
chance.
he wants. He's so nasty with the puck, and he's like, what, 5'8"? Like, he's not much
Yeah.
bigger than me.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah, that guy's amazing. But anyway, you mentioned the Bruins and the Red Wings game that we went to where they played one another on Black Friday. At that moment in time, Kyle,
Mm-hmm.
the Bruins had lost 2 games at home, and you had been at both of them. That I believe is still true.
I think it is. I think they lost. They lost in New York
And then in
next
Columbus.
day.
So
Yes.
that is still true that the only 2 games they've lost at the Garden all year you were there. But speaking of their wins and losses, here's something I wanted to bring up with you, and then we'll do a Devils check-in.
Okay.
We'll want to make sure we get squeeze that in before we run out of time here. Um, Here's the thing. The Bruins, yeah, they had a skid. But if you look at the wins they have, it started out with they beat up on the Sharks. Okay, they've got a couple wins against the Sharks.
Mhm.
They beat the Ducks out there. Then they lost to them in overtime over here. You were there. They beat the Kings, and it was like, oh, well, they're not playing a great competition. They are 2-0 against the Leafs. They are 2-0 against the Florida Panthers. And they are, let's see if I factor in the rest of the division. Let me just do some quick math here. They are 2-0 against the Leafs, 2-0, that makes 4-0. They lost to the Red Wings.
1 against the Red Wings.
They're 1-1-1. They're 1-2-0 against the Red Wings. They did beat the Red Wings once. So that makes them 5-2-0. And then if you factor in that
Yeah, you're right.
then they are that makes them 6-2-1 because they split with the Canadiens. And then I think that's everybody in the division that they've played. The Sabres, I think they beat once, so call that 7-2-1. So they're like, anyway, I'm not here to do math with you, but they are 7-2-1 against their division, right? Like, okay, they've lost 2 games they lost 7-2-2 actually. They've lost 2 games in regulation to the Red Wings, but they've got points off the division in every single other game that they've played in the division, and that's why they're on top. And
Correct.
so we talk about the Bruins taking a step back possibly this year from the historic regular season last season, and that seems to probably still be accurate. But this team has dealt with a little bit of adversity. They had the Milan Lucic situation, which I think could have snowballed into a bigger distraction. They had the situation with McAvoy getting suspended. They've had games in which they've given up late goals and still found a way to get points. They have had situations where they've lose 3 in a row right around the holiday and rebound. So I think this is still a really resilient Bruins team, and a Bruins team that it's going to be interesting as we get into the winter, deeper into the winter, what they decide to do with this roster.
No, I agree. It's going to be interesting to see how they perform the rest of the year. So we'll see how they do as it gets colder.
Right. And as people start to wear down, like, is Matt Patra, I like the kid, but is he built for an 82 game schedule? Is John Beecher built for an 82 game schedule? Is Danton Heinen still going to play this well? Is Morgan Geekie going to stay healthy? Is Charlie Coyle going to keep at this pace? All these things are important.
All great questions.
All right. And my question for you is, what's going on with New Jersey? Because we were sitting around here in October saying that we thought they were going to be a cup contender, and they look bad. They got rolled by the Sharks.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed by that, especially after we traded Mackenzie Blackwood to them. My concern is that the chemistry offensively is coming along. It's defensively chemistry is not coming along, if that makes any sense.
Right.
We didn't really change too many pieces defensively, which shouldn't be affecting our defense, but it seems like we're more focused on offense than we are defense, and that's what made us who we were last year. We get the turnovers in our zone, have breakaways because we're all in the right spot. Now that Nico Hischi's back, we finally can play some defense, but still not completely. And I can't blame it all on our goaltenders, but I know there's a smidge like second real year in the NHL. And Vasilevsky for not Vasilevsky, but I can't think of his name right now.
Vitek
But
Vanacek.
he's also Vanacek, yes. He's a much smaller goaltender, which is a huge disadvantage, sadly, for us. But a lot of for us, a lot of it's just stupid mistakes in our own zone. Like we're allowing the puck, we're allowing easy rebounds, we're not clearing out when we should on power plays. We're not making the right or smart pass. We're making short passes in our own zone and turn it right over. So for us, it's defensive. Defense is what's killing us right now. I mean, we won last night against Vancouver. I thought we were going to get our ass kicked. No offense, but that's what I thought we were going to do. So each week it's like I don't even know what to expect. Like, am I going to get a team that can play somewhat defense, or am I going to get a team that can't play defense? And I get it. The season's still young, still could turn around. I'm not going to really press the panic button and be like, oh, we're not going to be able to do shit until basically I'm going to give them at least to the NHL All Star break. Is what I'm giving them to. If they can't figure it out by then, I don't know. It might be time to be thinking about trading some players, especially goaltending, maybe defensively, especially with Dougie Hamilton being out. He's our biggest offensive threat defensively. I know that hurts your fantasy squad. But I think we have a great. We had our who was it? Niermik, I think, came up from the AHL as our second overall pick from 2021. I think could be off by a year or two, but I think we got a lot of young defense in the AHL. It's just a question of when they're gonna get up there. But also, don't forget our team is still very inexperienced. This is what their
Yeah.
second year of having a shot at potential playoffs. Expectations were probably a little bit too high, I would say,
I,
but still.
I think here's the worry, man, and then we'll get to our power rankings before we close down shop here. I got to get over to the island. Here's the problem that I think is going on. I think last year the Devils hit above their weight.
Correct.
I think they overperformed. And I think they had a lot of people thinking that they were further along in their development than they really are. And the fact of the matter is that Jack Hughes is still a really young player. Your defense is still made up of a lot of really young players. And the entire roster outside of like Timo Meyer and the guys you picked up from the Bruins third line,
I think they're all under 25.
yeah, they're all super young. And so I think much like the Sabres, right? Everybody was all, jazzed up over Buffalo. I think that there's still something to be said for veteran experience in this league, because look at what Washington did, turned around their season. Pittsburgh's better than I thought they were. The Bruins are better than we thought they were going to be. And I think the NHL sometimes falls into this trap that happens with the NFL. It was happening with the NFL recently. I think everybody was really jazzed up to have young quarterbacks. And then these guys were going to win so many Super Bowls, and then at the end of the day, it was still Brady winning Super Bowls as recently as 2 years ago. I think the same thing's happening in the NHL. Everyone's all excited about these guys, this young team, that young team. Well, you looked at who's won Stanley Cups recently. It's teams that have a lot of veterans. Like legit, the Vegas Knights were made up of veterans, right? Like they were an expansion team, right? They were an expansion team made up of veterans. And I think that's where a lot of that goes. All right, what are your power rankings? Top 5 in each conference.
Top 5. You want to start West? You want to start East?
Let's go. Give me your West. I'll give you my West, and then we'll close with the East.
All right. So right now for the West, I have the Knights still. I know they're a bit on a little bit of a up and down hill right now, but they're still the top dog to beat in the West. I give them the number one spot. Moving up in the power rankings, I have is the Kings moving up to number two. They have been phenomenal the last 10 games or so. And then number three, I have the Avalanche. They've also been hitting their stride right now. The Canucks I have falling down just because they've hit a little bit of a slump. And then surprisingly, my number five, you're gonna love this one. I have the Coyotes at number five as my
Yeah,
top five teams. They found their goaltender right now in Gibson, and the way they've been playing.
yeah,
I think I looked at the last five wins, and they were all the Stanley Cup champions. The last previous like 7 years, they were 5-0 against them, which is great for them. And like I said, I picked the rookie of the year coming from the Coyotes. So let's see what happens.
yeah. They've been exceeding expectations for sure. If we talk about a team that might be overperforming, here's my West. It's tight, but I'm going six. Sorry, five. I'm gonna go with Winnipeg.
Okay.
Uh, I think Winnipeg over Dallas. I'm putting Dallas at six. They've fallen a little bit. They haven't been as potent as they were when they started. We're going Winnipeg at five.
Okay. You got four.
Um, then I'm going the Kings at four.
All right.
Then I'm going Vancouver at three.
Yep.
They've played a lot of games. Like I looked at the standings and I had that written down here on my notes, and I had the standings up too. They played 26 games. They played more than anybody in the conference except for the Knights. Then at three, at two I had the
Three.
Avs, and then at one I still had the Knights. So I were very similar to you. I think the Knights are the best team in the league still. Until
Until
they're
proven
not.
otherwise. I mean, unless they go on a huge slump of losing, I'm not going to say they're not number one. But
Yeah. And then
so
in the East, um I have five Florida.
okay,
I've got four Carolina. I think keep an eye out on Carolina. They started a little slow. They're right back where they need to be, hanging around at the top of that division. And so that's where I see them right now. Uh, four, three. I have Detroit just
okay,
because they've been playing really well and they seem to get points in almost every game. Um, and then two, I have the Bruins. And then one, I have the Rangers. And the only reason I have the Rangers higher than the Bruins is because they beat the Bruins. But it's pretty close. So
yeah,
I
no,
think I had five five Panthers, four
Florida.
Hurricanes, then Red Wings, then Bruins, then Rangers.
Okay,
I
I
left
like
the
it.
Leafs out.
I like it. I like it. I'm going a little different than you. I'm going. I still trust in my Devils. I'm putting them at number five. I know they haven't played as well, but I still think they have a lot of potential. And the last few weeks have shown me. Was taking out the Sharks game. It showed me that they have something in the tank that they can prove. At number four, I have the Canes. As you said, they're just starting to find their mojo, which is scary, but they're finding it at the right time. Except I have at number three, I have the Bruins. Just because I have Detroit at number two, just because based on head to heads, if they were to play each other right now, I do think Detroit has the slighter advantage. And of course, at number one, the Rangers have just looked phenomenal so far this year. And right now, they are the team of the East. They are running show. Even with Shesterkin being hurt, Quick has had a great start for his few games he's played.
I picked the wrong year to pick the Rangers
You
to
were a
be.
year too early.
That's a year too early on the Rangers Stanley Cup train. Cool. Well, I think we're pretty much the same teams, just ranked in different orders.
Yeah.
And look, that it's going to be this way. We're into December now. There's plenty of hockey ahead. What do you have as a prediction for 2024? I'll put you on the spot before we.
Prediction going into next year.
Yeah, what's the big hockey thing that's going to happen in 2024?
Oh gosh. Oh.
Because I don't know if we'll record again before the holidays. We'll
Well,
try.
we got the women's NHL is going live. That'll be starting in the 2024, which is very, very exciting.
Let's hope they keep the league together this time.
Yeah, let's please keep it together. We also got to figure out which teams we're rooting for still for
I'm Boston.
that. No, I think for next year, I'm more excited to see what these younger teams are going to look like in the future. These young teams come up and see what's going to happen. I mean, right now, I still think the Knights still have it for a while, but these younger teams, see if they can put it together and start changing the NHL.
All right, I like it. My big prediction is July 1st of next year is going to be a free agent frenzy that we'll all love to witness. But my other big prediction is that let's see. My other big prediction, maybe the Canucks do sweep the awards. All right. Maybe
Wow.
they do.
Wow.
All right,
Okay.
that's going to do it for this episode of Odd Man Rush. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed the program. Please follow us on social. You can follow my show at Homefield Pod. We also have a link to our merch there. Keep an eye out and stay tuned for Odd Man Rush merch. We'd love to have you check out some of that if you'd like. You can also follow both of us on Instagram, and I at Granddaddy Diezel and at Will Highland too, if you want to join the party. But until next time, I'm Will Highland. That's Kyle Diezel. You've been listening to Odd Man Rush.